Okay, so we are doing teaching points. Where have we got up to before, is it? We haven't done the Mignon B flat major bit, is that right?
Yeah, I haven't got teaching points through.
Are you all?
Actually, I've got some.
Have we finished? Yeah, I think we started it.
Yeah.
Have we finished perpetual motion in B flat major? We have, haven't we? Page before. Yeah. Okay, let's play Mignon. Just check your tuning, everyone.
Where is the Gavotte by Mignon? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Oh.
Memory is difficult.
Good. How would you describe the structure of the memory? There are many different correct answers to this question.
I'd have to have a few minutes to think about it, to be
Yeah,
honest.
okay. Kit, do you have it in from before?
Well, I have the lines, so that kind of helps me.
Yeah, exactly. So how do the lines help you?
Because the different colour represents the different thing. Like,
Good. And what about the endings?
they're all different. Not.
Did you have the double lines at the endings of each colour? When
Yes.
appropriate, yeah. So you can see that if you're using the colours, have you coloured yours in as well? No. So if you've got the colours, I would recommend you do it. It's probably, for visual learners, it's one of the most effective ways to remember. You've got the blue section, but it has one dark blue ending and then one light blue ending. So you know it's the same thing. It's the same as saying A1 and A2, which is definitely a musicological thing that we do talk about.
I don't understand the A1, A2 though.
So it's the same as the dark blue being the same both times.
Yeah.
But at the end of the first section you've got and at the end of the second dark blue section you've got so that's like A1, the one refers to the first ending, and A2 refers to the second ending, but they're still both the A tune. Not anything to do with the key of A, just
So you
the
just
first.
So you just do A1 and A2 instead of just A, or would you do A1, A1, A1 and then A2?
It depends. If you have a piece like why can't I think of a piece that's got this? Maybe in waltz, you have A. You can either say A, B, A1, B, A1, or you can say A1 and A2. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
A little bit.
So, in this piece, what's important to notice about the blue section, for me anyway, so the A section, is that you've got A1, A2, or dark blue, light blue endings, and then when you go to after the B section, it goes straight to A2, doesn't it? It goes straight to the light blue. Then you have the C section, and then when you come back to the A section, it's A1, A2, but the A2 has this pause, so in some ways we could call it A3 even, or it's A2 with pause added in between. Again, it's not such a strict way to discuss it, but you know, there's a wrong and a right answer there.
Wait, so
if you look at the bottom of the page...
Yeah, but what's the A1, A2, that's up to bar...
So the first
Yeah.
ending is bar 7 and 8.
Yeah.
And the second ending is 14 and 15. No,
Yeah.
15 and 16.
And then...
Then if you look at the one that starts again in the upbeat to 28, it goes straight to what is the same as bar 15, so bar 34 is the same as 15.
Yeah.
It doesn't do the first ending then the second ending.
So the bar 16, that's the B section up to a tempo again.
Yeah. Exactly. And then the C section would start 35, and that goes until the end of 46.
Mhm.
And then when you have that one, you have A1 again, and then A2 but with the pause, so you might want to call it A3 instead. And then the coda basically is the ending.
Yeah.
And that you just call another thing, or just...
I would call that the coda. I mean, in the colours, I've just made it light blue because light blue takes you to it, kind of thing. But it could also be pink or something completely different.
But it could be on D, if you would want to
Yeah.
do that.
Exactly. Yep. Good. So the thing to help the students remember and understand, because they're not going to get that far deep into it probably, is that at the beginning you have the first ending and the second ending, at the end you have the first ending, second ending, but in the middle you've got to miss out the first ending. That's the bit that will will help you and your students to remember to play bar 34 correctly. Because we all instinctively want to go da 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 da. Because every other time we get that, that's what happens first.
1, 2, 2, 1, 2.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Any questions about the structure? Okay, have you written in your tick boxes for this piece?
I have them on the notebook, yes.
Okay. You
I've
have?
got memory.
Okay. So, memory is definitely a big one. Boxes
I don't know the book actually.
pretty much always there. Sure.
Maybe you can continue because I've got it all.
Is that your fiddle? Whose violin is that?
That's mine.
Let's put it on chairs or something.
Cool. I think in lots of like huge Suzuki group concerts,
Yeah.
they would often play a game where they do the long pause in like all of the places in the piece.
Mm.
Have you ever had that before?
A long pause in all of the places. What do you mean all of the places in the piece?
Like in every ending, so every A1, A2 ending, they do a long pause. And then they just do like an especially long pause for the actual long pause.
Before the ending.
Yeah, before the ending, yeah.
Can you just play me what you mean?
So,
Sorry. Having just made you move your violin.
So like even in the beginning they go.
No, I don't think so.
You've never had that?
No.
I think I had that before.
I think if someone did that, that would be either very unique take on the piece or just wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, actually it is wrong, but
Yeah.
because there's not even a pause, there's not even a comma there, like there is at the end of each section.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, don't do that.
No.
Please. Okay, so intonation, especially in the C section, B flat major, boxes, memory, chords. These are the first chords we've got. Neat retakes. There are millions of retakes, aren't there? I see, Devon, that you are playing
Yeah, one of them.
the G sharp and then just not retaking. The problem with that is that then you're not in this sort of balance point for the.
Yeah.
Then you end up those elbows sticking out. So I think I think it's very useful for the children to practice doing like very sensitive retakes.
Mm-hmm.
So I would choose that, but obviously it's up to you.
No, that makes sense.
String crossing, especially in da 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 da, and all of the C section, and at the end. Different moods. I mean, there are very few pieces by the time you get this good that don't have different moods or different characters, aren't there?
But that's not a box.
I have put it in as a box.
Oh.
It might be a box that they do in review, like for if they're doing it for a solo or a concert or something. But I think it's just good to remind ourselves that it's always there. And pizzicato. And I would call this a mountain piece. So this is the first piece that's got the extended yellow with a hot pink 3 finger pattern, apart from perpetual motion in B flat major, which obviously is kind of an exercise in this book rather than an actual piece. So it depends how you kind of categorise that. But it's quite tricky, so if you have not done your B flat major stuff well enough or early enough, that is going to be a real challenge for them. Yeah. So I would say that you want to start preparing for Mignon and Lully during Witch's Dance. way that you're preparing that is the B flat major scale and perpetual motion sort of at the same time. I wouldn't leave it, I wouldn't do these 2 pages in order, because then as soon as you've got perpetual motion B flat major, you're into Mignon. And it's and also Witch's Dance, because it's fast and the string crossing is hard, it often just needs a couple of weeks of just kids doing their boxes basically. They can play at half speed, fine, but it just needs drilling to get fast enough. So they can get quite frustrated while that's happening unless you give them some other stuff to do. So the B flat major stuff is really nice to kind of keep them feeling like they're moving forward, but they're doing both these pages at the same time rather than Witch's Dance first and then the B flat major scale and perpetual motion.
Perpetual motion, that's book 3, isn't it? Or not?
Which perpetual motion?
I don't know. I don't understand why I wrote perpetual. I don't understand.
Look at page 19.
Yeah.
That's perpetual motion from book 1. In B
Oh,
flat
okay,
major.
from book 1, yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's
no,
it.
the other
I
perpetual
thought
motion is
it was
book 4.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Okay, so have we talked about now ready and bananas and potatoes or tomatoes or whatever you want to call them in bar 24?
Oh,
we have.
yes, that sounds familiar.
Okay, so could one of you whip out your phone and just video me talking about this separately, and then we can put it on the chat, because it's a really useful thing to just watch over and over again, whereas the teaching points you're probably not going to watch lots and lots of times. Okay, so in terms of how to approach these tricky notes that just get confused and they just go round and round very easily, what I would recommend you do before the kid can play it is practice. Now I'm going to give you a lead, and I want you to say now ready when I lead you. Okay, so let's try again. Yeah, one more time. Excellent. And now, Devon, can you choose me potatoes, tomatoes, or bananas?
Bananas.
Bananas. And then Kit?
Potato.
Potatoes. Okay, so now we're going to go, now ready, 1, I've forgotten already, potato.
Banana.
Banana, 2 bananas, 3 bananas, and 1 potato, 2 potatoes, 3 potatoes. Okay, so I'll do it with you. Now ready, 1 banana, 2 bananas, 3 bananas, 1 potato, 2 potatoes, 3 potatoes. And then obviously that's hard for a kid, that's hard for us, that's hard for a kid to do. So we'll do that loads of times, we'll do it with the parent, we'll do it with the child. And then, if you have your text sorted out, so you've got your recording on your phone, which I hope you do, you can do it without you playing and see if they can put it in the same place. So if they can't do it in the same place, just from listening, by that point, then you make a video on their phone of you giving the lead, and they just practice that for a week. Yeah? If they can do it with the recording, maybe still take a video so that mum or dad can check that it's in the right place, but they're going to just practice chanting that bit with the notes for a week so that they can say now ready in the right place. At the same time, they can practice this box just to get their fingers around the notes. No question about memorising it yet. And then, as they get better at knowing when the now ready happens, so the next week you would want them to be able to do it if you just play it like this. To start the now ready and say the words in the right place without you giving them any indication of when it is. If they need another week, obviously they need another week. And then they are also practicing it as a box with the notes still in front of them. And as they keep doing that, then they should get to the point where they can think, now ready, and then they'll know what is happening. And by that time they will know it off by heart. They may just not know exactly where to make the change, but they use the words to make the change in their heads, and then they should be able to do that box right. Lots of teachers teach all of that without the now ready, and then what happens is that the kids think, 1 banana, 2 bananas, 3 bananas, and then they get out of sync, because it's the now ready 1, because the A is not the note that sticks out the most, the G is the note that sticks out the most. So it's I think it's really helpful to put the now ready in, and then you do exactly the same pattern for now ready in the second page. So your now ready starts on 43. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Cool, thank you.
It didn't until literally just now.
Good. That's what these things are for. Excellent. So that's how, so just take a moment to write any notes you want, and then if you can put that on the WhatsApp group, Kit, that would be helpful.
Have you got any tips for just learning all the scales so that you hear it and you're like, oh, that's B flat major?
So that you hear it without knowing what note it is?
No, just like you hear a chord or you hear a piece and you know, oh, I know that's in A major or G major.
You can't teach that. They either have a
Can't teach
perfect
that.
pitch or they don't. No, you have to teach them the theory to look at the notes and work it out.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? I can just play you a piece?
I mean for me, because I'm not great at that.
You need to use the key signature.
Yeah. Okay.
So, for sharps keys, so I will make a note to put in a thing to talk about teaching keys, but for sharps keys I teach, look at the last sharp and go up a semitone, that's your keynote.
Okay.
So looking at the note that is, the sharp that is nearest to the numbers, time signature. So for example, let's use that in, it's all in, musette. Can you go to musette number 2?
Mm-hmm.
So which is the sharp nearest the time signature?
C sharp.
C sharp.
Yeah, and so then Devon go up a semitone?
D?
Yeah, so you're in what key?
D major?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so closer to the time signature, so
Closest to the time signature, like the further along
right,
to the
okay.
right.
yeah.
Because the thing is with the kids, they get confused. If you say the one nearest, the last sharp, sometimes they'll see the top one or the bottom one.
Mhm.
They won't read right to left
Right.
like we do. So the one nearest the time signature is, that really shows them like, okay, it's there. Even if it's up there, it's the one that's like in that spot next to
Okay.
it.
That's a good way of actually teaching it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Devon, have a go at minuet number 12, page 28.
So that would be G. No.
That's a G sharp, yeah?
Oh, so A major.
Yeah.
A major, yeah. Okay.
And then you would use your tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone pattern to find the major scale.
Mm-hmm.
But lots of Suzuki kids will also just use their ear, like we know what a major scale sounds like.
Yeah.
And then with flats, so that works for all the sharps.
Yeah.
With flats, the penultimate flat, the one before the last, in the key signature, is your keynote. But that means if you've only got one, you've just got to remember that it's F major. Just like they've got to remember that it's C major with nothing.
So it's second closest to the time signature.
Exactly.
And it's still a semitone up.
No,
Semitone
that
up.
is the note. No,
Okay,
that is the
okay.
note. So if you look at page 19 again, B flat major, we obviously know is B flat major.
Yeah.
But if you look at the key signature, you've got a B flat and an E flat. That's what tells us that we're in B flat major. It's the penultimate flat, the one before the last,
Yeah.
is the keynote. So that flat is on B, so that is B flat.
Okay. And
So that's the keynote.
It's just the other way around with sharps and flats.
No, they're not. This is really important for you to understand before you try and teach it to the kids. It's not the opposite. Because in the sharps, we're finding the last sharp and going up a semitone. In the flats, we're finding the second to last flat, and that's the keynote.
Oh, that's what I meant. I don't know how to say it, but that's what I meant.
But,
So if there's
but
like
the kids will constantly say that they're either going to look at the last flat and go down a semitone, or they might remember the penultimate, they'll look at the penultimate flat, but then they'll go up a semitone or maybe down a
What's the
semitone.
easier way of saying that weird word?
Second to last.
Okay, so if there's 4 flats, you just count back.
So 3, and number 3 is your keynote. Yeah, and then later on you'll also teach them the order of the flats and the order of the sharps so they can do it without looking at the music. But at this stage they're looking at the music.
Suzuki's really got everything off by heart. It's just so different to what I was just...
How did you learn your keys?
Well, I was learning scales and arpeggios separately.
You were?
Yeah, so I had a book just for scales and arpeggios,
Yeah.
and with exams I had to do a lot of different scales.
But how did you learn the keys for the pieces that you were playing?
We did theory as well.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, how did you work out a key of a piece you were looking at if this is different?
I can't remember. It was so long
I
ago.
would say that's probably pretty ineffective teaching then.
It was so long ago, but yeah.
I think the thing about
that's
this,
why.
it's weird actually, lots of traditional approaches, they just teach the kids to learn by rote that 1 sharp is G major, 2 sharps is
I think that's
D major.
Yeah.
And that's really unhelpful. If you forget it, it's really unhelpful. And also, it's 1 rule for each one. You've got to learn 7 different rules. Whereas this is 1 rule, it works for all the flats. It's 1 rule that works for all the sharps. No, not all the flats, except 1. So you've got to learn 3 things, or you've got to learn all of the flats and all of the sharps. It's nonsense. Anyway, but it's not actually about having it off by heart. It's about knowing the rule, and then you can look at the piece and work it out every time.
And what about minor scales?
We don't, the kids would not learn how to work out relative minor until about book 3, maybe book 4, hopefully book 3. But essentially, because during this time they're doing sight reading separately from, I mean, they should always be practicing sight reading separately because you cannot sight read something you already know, of course. So in the sight reading books, they will always, for all of the ABRSM pieces, books, grades, they will always finish on the keynote. So you work out the major scale from the key signature, and then you look at the last note, and if it's not that, it's in minor at this kind of level.
Okay.
But then later on they'll learn that the relative minor is 3 semitones lower, the tonic is 3, so tonic just means keynote, is 3 semitones lower. So if you think about C major and A minor, if you go from C, 1 semitone is B natural, another semitone is B flat, another semitone is A natural. So that's 3 semitones down from the major keynote to find the relative minor. And that never changes whether it's flats or sharps or naturals.
So how would that look on the time signature? How would you work it out?
The key
Is there
signature.
a rule? Is that
So in most of the pieces you would look at the last note as well. So if you were thinking about the Gavotte in, the Lully Gavotte, page 24, what will most of your students tell you the key is just from looking at the key signature?
G.
Think about the white notes on the piano.
C major?
C major.
Yeah.
A major has 3 sharps. A minor. They might say it's C major or A minor, but most of them will just go, it's C major. And then you look at the last note and it finishes on an A. So as they get more advanced at this, is that 3 semitones down from C? Then they'll work it out and then they'll say yes it is. And then also even later you'd be looking for the raised 7th of that key. So in A minor you're looking for G sharps, because if you think about a natural minor scale, which is exactly just the notes that are from the key signature, so in this case just all the white notes. Sorry. If you think about how that sounds, that doesn't sound like the minor scales that we kind of know. So this is C major. There's no other kind of major scale in our culture. But minor, if I play the natural minor, which means there are no changes, the top of it sounds weird. Starts off sounding like a normal minor, but then we expect this, or we expect this. That's a harmonic and a melodic scale. So if you're looking at the key signature, you're looking for that raised 7th, because that is the note that gets changed in both of those minor scale patterns. So if you look at Lully, you can see that there are lots of G sharps, whereas there are very few F sharps, for example, and even fewer like A sharps or D sharps. Yeah?
Okay. But what's the rule, or is there a rule for working it out past book 3?
You always work out the major from the key signature first,
Yeah.
and then you look for those the 2 things I was just talking about, for the last note and the raised 7th, and also just listen to it. Is it in the major or is it in the minor?
Yeah.
But if you're sight reading it doesn't really matter so much if you know whether it's relative minor or major, because as long as you're going to play the notes on the page, it will come out. It's not something you need to know in order to play it right. You need to play the notes right on the page. And the key signature is what tells you that.
Yeah.
But the key signature is the whole point of the relative minor, is that they're the same key signature as the major. So if you think it's in A minor, but actually then it turns out to be in C major, you're not going to play the wrong notes. Whereas if you think it's in A major, but it's in C major, you're going to play all the F's wrong, all the C's wrong, and all the G's wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah?
Cool.
We're going to talk more about sight reading this afternoon, so we will go into that more. Okay. Do you know how you would teach the last 2 bars of Mignon? What notes have you got written there, Kit?
For
The chords at the end.
the pair A1 and E2 best friends.
Great. Does that make sense to you and how you would actually teach it?
Sorry, say that again?
Prepare A1. Do you have this written in?
No.
Could you please write it in? So between the first and the second chord, so the last 2 notes, you want to prepare A1, then E2, and they're best friends, i.e. a semitone apart.
Like the
Okay.
Carthage story.
Yes, and if you look below in the pizzicato practice, it builds it up for you that you would practice first of all, and then add the A, and then put the 1 across and add the 2. So if they can do the first one correctly, all they need to do to turn it into the second one is move the 1 over a string and add the pizzicato on 2 strings, and then later on 4 strings.
Okay. I've also got written elbow up, finger over fingerboard, twinkle exercise.
Sorry, just say all that again, please.
Elbow up, finger over fingerboard, twinkle exercise.
Good. Do you remember what twinkle exercise I was talking about?
Was that just playing twinkle with pizzicato?
Yes, it could be, and then it could also be bow, pits, bow, pits.
Okay.
And the other thing that they really need to remember is the 2 up bows, which is the end of 68 into the beginning of 69.
That was the same as the other piece. Beautiful one.
So that that propels you to the right place. Yeah?
Okay.
Yes, like Witch's Dance. I mean, Gavotte. Gavotte. Good. Everyone happy about Mignon? Delighted about Mignon, obviously. Right, let's see if we can do the next 4 pages in 16 minutes. I believe we can. So, page 22 is an exercise for... So just go back and write at bar 22, see page 22. And of course, to make it easier, Kit, what would you do to this what would you do to the students to make it easier for them? What would you offer the students if this single bows was still too tricky for them to work out?
Finger-wise?
No.
Or what do you mean?
How would you make this even simpler and give them more time and space to think about what they're doing without changing the left hand?
So if they're struggling, just doing it separately.
Yeah, if this is just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, twinkle.
Yeah. How?
Like, just doing like a twinkle variation on each note.
Yeah. Right, have you got those two fingers down? Yeah, pick up the one and the one, move it back, then pick up the four. And then you've got that weird finger pattern. Good. Okay. So, lovely Hannah quite correctly pointed out that I'm using the wrong words. Have a cup of tea, have a cup of tea. Will you, won't you, have a cup of tea has too many diddles in it. Will you, won't you, stop. So, will you, won't you have a cup of tea? Exercise 15 I'm talking about. I was making it too long. So that is preparation for ding, 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 yeah, which you should have the preview box explained page. Oh. 19.
Isn't that for the D flat major exercise, the preview?
Yeah. If you have written in like I do, preview box explained page 19 on bar 5 and 6, that's the wrong thing to have written. It should be page 22, and then the B flat major section is preview page 19. Please don't fall into the trap of saying the minor section, because it's not in the minor. Okay. I personally would say that this is a good point to get a scales book if you have a child who needs to look at a page for what they're doing, or just to do scales separately and not in the way that the Suzuki books recommend them. I really don't like, well, particularly once we get to the D and then it only goes up to A at the top, like a scale has to go from the keynote to the keynote. But I think this is quite a good moment to get a scales book which has got the harmonic minor and melodic minor actually written out, so you can see them differently. And also I wouldn't use the fours. If you are going to teach exercise 16 I'm talking about, I wouldn't use fours on the way up or the way down, because that's not how we would play the scale. And also because if you want to practice those finger patterns, which is why they've put those fours in, I'm on page 22, exercise 16. What means I feel comfortable saying to you we don't need to practice the scale with the four? What do we have in our repertoire instead? That means those finger patterns will be solid without that. What teaching tool do you have that means I don't need to worry about where the four goes when they play the scale?
The finger pattern.
Exactly, and the finger marches, yeah? So you would, so they've done yellow with a hot pink 3 on every string. They know the red, the blue, the yellow with the hot pink 3 at least perfectly. Most of them will then need to look at green. There's a copy up there if you just want to remind yourself what I'm talking about. So I think that means that we can teach the scales in the best way to play them, which is with open strings, not with fours, unless it's got a reason to use a four. Does that make sense? Very rambly explanation.
And remind me, when do we start finger patterns?
As soon as they can play 4 fingers.
Okay.
So you're introducing red before twinkles, because they're going to use red for twinkles. You might not call it red then, because there's they don't really need to know until they learn the blue. But blue is the G major section in book 1, so you're introducing the blue finger patterns way before etude so that they already know that. And then yellow with a hot pink 3, well, the first time you're introduced to it is that high 3 there in Gavotte.
Okay.
And then where is it in there? Maybe it's not so much in that. Maybe it's more the perpetual motion certainly is the big yellow with a hot pink 3 thing that we've done. Yeah, the perpetual motion. And they don't get green for quite a long time. I guess, I mean, it depends how much you want to. No, that's still not green. Ignore me. Okay, 10 minutes. So, if you want to teach exercise 16 and 17, that's completely fine. I personally wouldn't really use them here, but it's up to you. Okay, we are going to come back to page 23 when we're on Beethoven Minuet, because that's all prep for Beethoven Minuet. So, Lully Gavotte in 10 minutes, yes, that definitely should be easy. We have the preview, which is written at the end of page 25. You want to introduce that. Where do you think, Devon? When do you think they might need to start doing this?
When you're doing Mignon.
Yes,
yeah.
Perfect answer,
Yeah.
exactly right. So please write at the top of Mignon, preview extension box in Lully. When you do it is up to you, but sometime while they're tackling that huge piece, when you feel they're getting a bit dispirited, do you want something new to learn? A little bit of Lully Gavotte, which is going to make the only difficult thing in it easy for you. Yes, please, then that's what you do. Because Lully really is so easy, apart from that middle section. And most of the middle section is quite easy, apart from the extension. Okay, so yeah, if you're thinking about bar 22 to 23, let's play it. Let's play all the piece. I very much recommend that you use open strings there, because otherwise you just spend your life listening to this. It's pretty horrible. It's a Baroque piece. Open strings would not have been a problem, and it means that they don't have that fourth finger horror. We've got loads of other fourth fingers you can use to make sure they're good at it. they're, you know, probably finished the book.
Sorry, can you say that again?
It's a lovely time to do their first shift in a piece. If you're practicing shifting during book 2, which I hope you will be, once they finish the book and they're in review for this piece, they can go on to the second finger for the last note, and it feels very grown up. So, lots of teachers will teach the line of, like if you look on the page 25, the line above the bottom, do, 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 really well, but then not extend it to adding the next 3 notes, which is really helpful because the extension is a problem, but also the high 2 and then low 1 are problems. So you definitely don't want to just get stuck on the 4 notes. It's vital to keep the 3 down, and it's also vital to slide the 4. Do not hop it. It's a semitone, you just slide it down. So I would teach the students with the words stretch and slide. So stretch, slide, lift. And keep that one down all the time like it's got magic super glue on it. And I would just do that for the first week. Ideally 10 times, maybe 5 depending on how old and how robust and how keen they are. But then as soon as you go to single notes, you want to put in the next 3 notes or even 4 notes. I think it's useful to have the last note as well, but it's up to you. Doesn't make a massive difference. And then you definitely want them to be doing that 10 times because they're going to be getting faster and faster at it, and it hardly takes any time at all. If they give you grief about 10 times for that, you just say, right, could you look at the clock and count how many seconds it takes me to play this 10 times? And then they look at the clock. That took precisely 5 seconds, so it's going to take less than a minute for them to do it 10 times. Maybe with half a minute for getting it wrong a couple of times, you know, really is. That's always what I do if there's a kid who doesn't want to do reps of 10. It's like, how long do you think it takes to do this box 10 times? And they'll say, 10 minutes! And then just give them a stopwatch or get them to look at the clock and do it for them 10 times. Not like I just did where you extrapolate, but literally just do it 10 times. Then it really helps them to have listened to you do it 10 times. That's also really helpful for them. Really helpful for the parent because they understand what it's supposed to sound like because they've heard it those 10 times. And you get to prove. It's 2 minutes of practice. What's your problem? Okay, I use the colours for structure in this piece again. You know, we very broadly speaking got A, B, A, C, A, B, A. You can also add in the endings. So you've got A1, A2, blah, blah, blah. I think in this piece it's more helpful that people get it wrong less. Mostly what goes wrong in memory is bar 18. Going up to that. Mostly they remember the first and the second ending, it's just that one that goes a bit wonky. This is the first real trill in the repertoire. You've had do-do-do-do-do in Mignon as a precursor to that, but this is the first actual trill. And so a lot of them will just play semiquavers like they were, you know, the equivalent of in Mignon. Rhythm practice is a really fun thing for them to do. Once they can play the middle section kind of alright, it's much more interesting for them to practice. And do that 2 times and then etc. 2 times and then normal 2 times and see what a difference it makes than it is for them just to do the whole thing 6 times or whatever. So I would introduce rhythm practice, and once they've got the preview box, I would make that box from 21 all the way to 25.
Would that be on the preview or just in overall teaching points?
It just depends how quickly they go. You know, if you've introduced the preview box right at the end of Mignon, so suddenly this is their working piece and they've just kind of barely got around the extension, then it's not really preview anymore. But if you started it really early in Mignon, and you might have a kid who can play all of before they even start and it's not to say one of those is right and one of those is wrong, it'll just be how it pans out with that child's practice, and you know, the same child would learn it differently at 6 months apart if they happen to be, you know, it's just all be flexible basically. So the tick boxes, oh no, a couple more things. It's like a da capo, it's exactly the same from the halfway through 34 as it is at the beginning until the last note. So that's really helpful for them to remember. It's not like Mignon when you've got to remember that the second time through goes differently. It's literally identical apart from the last bar, which is just like a pause on the first note, 21. So it's pretty much the same. Do you see what I mean, Kit?
I understand the thing, but I don't understand the pause thing you said.
You don't understand the what?
I understood that it's exactly the same as the beginning.
Yeah.
But I don't understand that pause thing that you said.
The da capo. So da capo is when you go back to the beginning of a piece, but in terms of it being printed, that just says da capo al fine at the end, like in Gavotte. And then you play from the beginning until you see al fine, or rather fine, sorry. But here, it's not printed like that, even though it could be. The only difference is that the last note is a minimum. So, but that just feels like the first note of 21 with a pause on it.
Okay, yeah, I get you.
Great. Okay, we have -2 minutes. I'm just going to run through the tick boxes very quickly and then we can say we finish this piece. Lightness of tone. We do not want the students to be playing. So this is like the start of really trying to change the different tones that they have rather than just look for a beautiful sound. Memory. Intonation. Quaver section. Or fast notes, or, you know, orange section, or however you want to refer to it. The story or the characters. And elegance, I would say. So this is a really great piece to say to the child, okay, let's tell a story through our music. Would you like to tell the story of your family? Would you like to make up a story about animals? Would you like to tell a story of your holiday? You know, and then go through them. Like, okay, so if you're going to choose your family, for example, who's this? If they've got a cheeky little brother, they might be like, oh yeah, that's Harry. And then who's this? Oh, that's Mum when she's cross with us because we've made a mess in the bathroom or whatever. And then what about this? Oh, that might be me. And what's happening here in the story? We're running, or we're, you know, doing gymnastics, or we're skipping, or whatever. It's not really skipping because it's the wrong rhythm. And then you get back to the end, you know, and then you just go through the same things again. And you can go as deep or as light as you like on that kind of thing, but it really helps them to understand that music is about storytelling. It's not just about learning the notes and playing it right. So it's a really nice, it's a good fun thing to do in group as well, that you can make up your own group story.
Wait, so the structure should be like A, B,
C, A, B.
Oh, I did it the wrong way around. That's why I got confused.
Okay.
A, B.
So if you think about the colours.
Yeah. I think the
A is green.
The second blue is confusing me.
Okay.
I did it exactly like yours.
Okay, I mean, yeah, if you want it, you could say that it was A, B, C, D, and then E, big section. Or you could say the reason these are light blue and dark blue is because it's kind of one section.
Okay.
And then that's A2, isn't it, really? Or like, so it just depends Yes, I was wrong before. If you want to be most basic, it's A, B, A, C, A, B, A. Yeah? A, beginning up to bar 8.
Yeah.
B,
Yeah.
8 to 16. A again, 16 to 21.
But also you'd count
16 is definitely A again, isn't it?
so you'd count the second half of 8 all the way to the
Yeah,
all the way to
16.
16.
Yeah.
basically.
If you're doing it the most basic way,
Yeah,
or if you want to be the most like broken down, you would say A1, A2, B, C, A3,
Okay, no.
D, and then the same as the beginning.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Mostly we would say it's A, B, A, C, A, B, A.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a bow. So after lunch, you two have lessons with Helen at 2 o'clock. And then at 3, we're going to talk about, maybe we'll make those lessons 20 minutes. At 2:45, we'll talk about sorry.
Cool.
Cool.